Hi everyone, my name is Jorgen Fotiadis. I'll be showing you some of the basics to set up your own webinar event through my automated webinar. So let's get started. I'm already on the front page, so just click on member login and let's get started. Okay, so when you initially come in here, first thing you want to do is set up your account a bit. This means, well, the default email is where you get all kinds of reports of new registrants attending a webinar if they're chatting on something. So just put in the email address that you feel best on. Make sure you also add your time zone. It'll make things much easier. Next, you will need to verify an account like I've done. You can only send from verified accounts, so the next step is actually to verify your own account, email account, so you can send from it. The account name is just for your reference. The email sender's name is going to be on all emails that you'll be sending, and the email address is the email address itself. Just by clicking save, you will automatically be sent an email containing a link. You click on that link and then you have verified your email address. It's that simple. Okay, so next step is to start setting up our new webinar. First thing you're going to need is give it a name. There it is, and just save progress at the end. Okay, now as it says here as well, in order to actually have our webinar running, we need to conclude some of the basic parts of it. These are the pre-event phase, so we need the webinar page and the thank you page. We need the webinar room itself, and we need one of the pre-event autoresponders. This is essential because basically for each one of your registrants to enter your webinar, they need to have a specific personalized link. Each registrant will have his own personal link, so you must send them this link via email. They will not be able to access the webinar without that. Next step, let's just go to webinar scheduling and we can set this up whichever way we want to. We can have this daily or on a specific date, or set it for weekly. Let's just say we have it on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Now, this is what the time will look like for your visitor. For example, I'm in Greece now, so if I have this adjusted to visitor time, it means that if I say, for example, that I want one webinar a day at say 9 p.m. Okay, that means that it's 9 p.m. Greek time, Athens time. But if I have this adjusted to the visitor times, it means I can market this anywhere in the world, because anyone who actually goes to enter the webinar will see it starting at 9 p.m. their time. Now, if I don't want this and I want it to feel a bit more real, and I want this to kind of advertise globally, but everybody sees this at the correct starting time, then I can have it fixed to my time zone, which means that it's 9 p.m. my time zone. So in London, that would be, for anybody trying to register for my webinar in London, they'd see 7 p.m., 2 hours behind us. Now, we also have the option to take a just-in-time registration. This means that anyone who tries to register will also see a webinar starting this instant, and that they've just in time to get in. I'm going to set this to no, but you can export more, depends on how you want to advertise your webinar. I want them to get a couple of emails before and kind of prepare them for it and give them some additional information, so I usually set this to no. How many webinars to display? I want them to see just one webinar. Allow registration for webinar starting. Well, I wanted to start in, say, from 2 days after. Why? Because I want to send a couple of emails first and get them hyped about what they're going to see before the starting time. And I can also block a specific date. Let's just say I want to block say December 25th, well, say December 24th. So this means that even though December 24th is a Saturday, I will have no webinar that day. So anybody who tries to register on the Thursday before, for example, will not see that Saturday at all. They will see the next Wednesday. And I can select more dates if I want to. save progress for this, and let's go to fix up our registration page. Okay, there are 3 options available, 3 different templates to start off with. Whichever one is greater for your needs, it really doesn't matter, whichever you prefer. Let's say I'll go for this one because there's a timer on it. And keep in mind that this first template, even if you have selected more than one webinars to be shown, it will always count down to the next webinar, to the next starting webinar, and it will only allow a person to register for that one webinar anyway. Number of presenters 1, I can select an image. Okay. Now, there are different parts of a webinar. They appear differently. You can test out a couple of different areas and find out how to fix up each one of the templates. You can, after you start creating it, there'll be a preview button as well. So, for example, again, every webinar, every registration page template seems to have different options. So play around with it and see what's best for you. Okay, I think we're okay with the rest of them. Just leave them as they are. Save our progress, and well, here it is. Now I can preview how this will look actually. Now keep in mind that previews don't have all the functionality of the front page. So for example, I have no registration button. I can't really register for it, but the front page link will have that button anyway. You can also generate a HTML code if you have Olympic Marketing System, and this will enable you to use the pages there and simply use what you want from here. Just copy that into OMS and create a form based on this, so you can actually use pages from the Olympic Marketing System, from your Olympic Marketing System account, to actually register people to watch your automated webinar. Okay, next step is the thank you page. You can either choose an external URL and take them to a specific page, or you can create one yourself. Again, whatever you want to do is okay. Just it can have a video, or it can be an image. It doesn't really matter what you want. Let's just do an external URL. This will be, say, my Facebook page. If you go back to webinar overview, you will actually see that I already can preview some of the pages I've created, and you'll see small ticks next to each part of a webinar as well. So while as I move down, I'll get ticked on more. But I'm just doing the basics now, so I'll skip the countdown page and just leave that to whatever default the system has, and actually start the webinar room. Now, here's where everything really happens, and here's where most of our options are. Again, I'll try and keep this simple in this video, and you can just experiment and try different things out. First of all, I definitely need to add a webinar video. This is the video itself that's going to be playing. This is the webinar event itself. That's just optional. Here is the webinar video itself. So I've already uploaded some videos. Okay. Now, you need to know the length of the video that you've uploaded, so you can actually time the webinar video. You give the information, and this is important, to when the video will end and when the room will close. If you have more, if you set it up to be more, then it's not a problem. If you set it up to be less, it means that the webinar will actually close in the middle of the video, which doesn't really look that great, while otherwise the video will actually close. They just get a black spot for that area of the presentation, and you might have more chatting going on or something like this. You can also decide to actually redirect the minute the video finishes, or keep everyone in the same room. Well, let's just say I want to redirect everyone again back to my Facebook page. Webinar video has ended. Later in these, you can set up a specific time where if anyone comes after that time, they're not considered an attendee anymore. They're kind of considered, they're given a late status, which means they basically missed the event and missed what was going on. I'll just disable it for now because I don't really mind whenever somebody enters my webinar. Choose the template you want to have for your room. I prefer the darker shades. Background can be a color, or it can be an image. It can be set to repeat or stretch. I'd like to put an image for that. Let's see if I've got something ready. Yeah, okay. You can disable it completely or custom make it the way you want it. The info bar is just a section that appears on the page. If there's no host, it'll only show the presenter, and default options depend. Again, it's how you want to do it. Now we go to the delayed events. The basic delayed event is that you can't actually change it. There has to be one button anyway, and that's your main offer. Now you can select from your images and load a button of your choice, or you can select one of the default ones. Let's say this one, become a member, or say this one. Okay, I've changed it now. And where will this link to? Well, it can link to my time to appear. I want this towards the end of my webinar, say so around the 9-minute mark. This depends on your video again. It has to do with how you set it up. And I want it to disappear at the end of the video. Text to display above button. This will appear right over the button I've selected. Now you can also organize to have polls. Nice thing about polls is that you can select what the question is, how many options there are, what those options will be, and of course the desired outcome you want for each option as well. And you get to choose when the poll will start. Well, it will be hidden, and when the results will actually show, and when they will be hidden as well. I don't want any polls for now, but I'm just showing you fast. Okay. Attendee options. We can have an attendee window. Of course I want this because it makes it feel more real. The window title, attendees for example. Attendee, I want simulated or simulated and real names. Yes, I want both. Max number of attendees, say 50 in the room. And here's how fast the will actually fill up. The meeting room will actually fill up. I want the webinar to start with 25% of the total already inside, so that the user doesn't feel that, or my registrant doesn't feel that they're the first one in the meeting room. I want another lot of them to enter within 2 minutes, and I want the room to be, say, full by the 5th minute. Yeah, something like that. Okay. Now, this is just to generate automatic names, so you'll get some of them automatically in there. So see, for example, I already got some names there. So give me a good 50-50, and I want name and surname. It will look a bit better. Okay, these are just randomly generated names, and they'll appear inside the attendee window. They'll actually start coming in the same order that they're in here. Remember that you can change these, and you can put whatever you want to as well, and they will always appear in the same order. Now this is important when you're doing some of the chat functions. Okay, so now the next thing is if you want a chat window or not. If you don't have a chat window, that's great. That means that somebody just sees what they want. I find it a lot more realistic if there is a chat window inside. Now, The nice thing about when you enable the chat window is that you have two options as to how it works. Now, this means that first of all, you can be notified at the end of the webinar only, and you will be notified only if there's a real registrant in the room who actually says something in chat. So then you will automatically know the minute the webinar finishes what they were asking and what they were talking about or what was happening. For example, you can, in the chat window title, you can write something like, now, this means that they actually ask anything they want to down there in chat. There's just a send button, so for them it's just a form. And I'll get all the questions they ask at the end, and I also see which minute they ask them, and then I can just call them back and kind of give them the information they want to, as if it was a live webinar and I was looking at everything. Now, there is a second option that makes this even more, feel even more real, and that's if I choose Real Attendee Message Notifications. Now, what this will do is that it will send me an email to the basic email I gave earlier in my account each time that one of the real attendees of one of my virtual webinars, my automated webinars, actually writes anything into their chat. Now, this is great because it means that I get this email, I know what they asked, and I get a special link inside that email that enables me to go into a live chat with them. So while they're watching the webinar, I can actually be answering them. Now, it depends on how you set this up, if it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. If, for example, you have your webinar room not closing at the end of the video, then you can actually log in there and continue chatting. Or if you're the host but you have another presenter, then you can actually log in and start talking to them as well. I can also, and of course I needed to change the window then to just simply say something like, now I can also enable auto chat. This means that I can have some messages appearing automatically throughout the webinar. I can just select a name, for example, and say, okay, this guy says, hi everyone. And they say it something like, well, say 10 minutes into the meeting. From the time of I can set up these messages to be from the time of the webinar start or from the time of the intro start. Now I don't have an intro here, so I'll just go for the webinar. Anyway, okay, so save progress here. Yeah, okay. Now again, I can see a preview here of what I've done and how this will look. This is the bar we were talking about, the info bar. This is the webinar video itself. These are the members coming in, and you see them going as the time goes by. And here's the chat window where you already see chat starting. Around 5 minutes, you'll also notice the button will appear underneath here, and it will have the message I put at the top of it as well. Okay. So this is the basic of how to set up the webinar itself. Now if I go back to overview page, you will see that now there's a webinar room and a replay page. The replay page is automatically created, again, based on defaults as soon as I have a webinar room ready. Now, as we said, we need to send a message to anyone who registers and give them the webinar link for themselves so they can actually come into the webinar. So I want a greeting message. Yes, I want this sent. I'm going to use one of the email accounts I've verified. Information on your webinar registration. Okay, now how to compose a message. You will find up here some instructions, some codes that you can use to personalize the message you're sending. For example, okay, username is the subscriber's name, so I can say I just want to remind them of the time and the date that they registered for, so they can be more sure they're going to log in. Okay, now then, there are two ways I can post the webinar link for this user. First of all, this is the code I need. It's the webinar link, so they can actually get into the broadcast room when the time comes. So selecting here, I want to make this simple. This is I'm telling them, when the time comes, click here or copy paste the following link to enter the webinar. So this is the link that they will actually see, their personalized link here. But I also make it easy through click here, just by creating, there it is. So this will be now clickable when they receive the email, and you can click on this and go to the same place. Save progress. Okay, so now we're ready. We've set up everything that we need to. This is the original, this is the front end registration page. This is what I'm going to advertise. This is what visitors will need to use in order to actually get to a place and start the webinar. So you'll see my registration page. It's pretty much like the preview, and if I click on reserve your place, you'll see there's a register now button, so they can actually register for this event now. That's it. It's that simple. So yeah, start it off and start exploring it. They're really amazing things that it can do. I love the live chat function, but you might find something else you like more. So yeah, enjoy it.